Good morning, everybody. As we start our new unit on mental and emotional health, the first thing I'd like to talk to you about is responses to stressful situations and positive coping. So, what is stress? Simply stated, stress is a state of mental or emotional strain or tension resulting from adverse or very demanding circumstances. It's also our body's natural response to a challenge. So, stress can be good or bad. So how does it affect our body? What part of our body does it is used when we're encountered with a stressful response? Well, it's our autonomic nervous system, an action within the central nervous system that is reflexive. The sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. So, you may have heard this term before, fight or flight, which equals the alarm stage. So if we encounter something that startles us or scares us, our sympathetic nervous system takes an active role in triggering our response to stress. So, this allows for our body to be more alert. It increases our blood pressure, it increases our heart rate. We start to breathe more, which is our respiratory rate, and our body is now prepared for physical activity. So we're going to either fight and stand up to the stress, or we're going to run from the stress. Uh, Different circumstances require different responses. Then we have the resistance stage. This kind of acts as an equalizer, brings our bodies back to a sense of stability. So if we don't get any relief from that fight or flight, our body starts to slow down a little bit. We can become very irritable and impatient with small matters. Your parents probably have experienced that, right? So then you have the exhaustion stage. So you haven't dealt with any of the stress and your body's starting to come down and it's starting to get tired. So your energy is depleted. The body returns to normal if the stress is removed. Big word there is if. Because if it's not, what ends up happening is you could have some skin disorders, gastrointestinal upset, which is your stomach. You feel the knots in your stomach. Ladies, you'll have menstrual irregularities, which means you'll have your period more often or you'll skip cycles. And then you also start to develop some cardiovascular disorders, such as increased blood pressure. Your heart rate stays too high, both of which over long periods of time is a stress on the heart. So, question is all stress bad? Well, if you're this quarterback running from these two defensive players, no, stress is not bad. It's motivating you to run faster. How about the stress of an exhilarating ride on a roller coaster? That's not bad. That's actually gives you a rush, and that's why people like roller coasters. How about graduation? It's stressful because it's the end of one chapter of your life, but the beginning of another. But that's exciting and something that should be looked forward to. How about a wedding? Ask anybody that's gotten married. There's some stress there. You're getting ready to hopefully spend the rest of your life with somebody that you care about. The uncertain future sometimes can cause stress, but that's a good stress. So healthy amounts of stress. Stress can act as a motivator, but too much stress can lead to mental illness such as anxiety or depression. And as we look at this chart, you see this guy down here sleeping. Well, he doesn't have enough stress in life. He doesn't have enough motivation, so therefore he's not really going to do anything. He doesn't have any desire to do anything because there's no stress in his life. Then you got the guy on the top. He's got a little bit of stress, but not enough so where he feels energetic and he can move and he can feel productive. And then you have the person at the bottom who has too much stress. And that stress has made him disorganized, made him anxious, and quite honestly, it's hard to deal with. So let's talk about some stress-related diseases and conditions. We just talked about gastrointestinal disorders. Our stomach, we get ulcers in our stomachs. You've heard of that, hopefully. Skin disorders, which are like rashes. You break out in hives. Some forms of cancer. We talked about cardiovascular disorders such as high blood pressure, high heart rate, which can lead to heart attacks. Depression. You just have that overwhelming sense that you just can't do anything, that there's no way out. That's depression. Anxiety, just the fear of not being able to do things, the fear of something's going to happen bad because of all these things that are going on. So let's kind of look back. Why do we have stress? So in modern civilization, stress was there to help us show that we had a need for food and water and shelter, successfully hunting and gathering, and surviving constant threats in life. Those stressors helped us basically just survive in an uncivilized world. And then, so how did they manage their stress? Well, they worshipped through prayer and meditation. Hieroglyphics, so they drew. They were drawing things. They meditated with and looked at the stars, the constellations in the skies, constantly searching for that meaning in life. So what do we have right now that causes stress and continues to cause us stress? Unemployment, or just the thought of unemployment. Financial difficulties. We live in such times where it's very expensive to live, and that can cause stress. As you see in the picture beside us, that could easily be Independence Boulevard. Traffic causes stress. We're trying to go somewhere, and we got all these cars, and it's very, very frustrating. Social frustrations, you may be feeling this. Bullies or not fitting in. Where are you going to sit at lunch? Who are you going to sit with during class? Those could be social frustrations. And then you have deadlines. We have the demands of life. You got homework. You've got assignments to do on Google Classroom. What career are you going to do? You got to pay taxes. You got to pay your bills. So all of these, if not kept in check, can definitely cause you stress. So we all going to encounter stress in our life. How can we manage our stress? Well, one is to eat. Some people eat too much. Some people don't eat enough when they get stressed. We have to eat a balanced, well-nutritious meals 3-4 times a day. And you really should get in the habit of exercising. Exercise that is fun, that you enjoy, that relieves that stress, get you some of that energy out. Some people, in a negative way, they hurt themselves. They deal with stress by cutting or even suicide. And so obviously those aren't good ways to deal with stress. Some pray and meditate. Some have to get medication. They go to a therapy session or a doctor, and they have to get medication in order to deal with their stress. Another bad way of dealing with stress is through smoking and drinking and drugs. They're looking for a way to relieve their stress in a way that helps them forget that the stress is there. But unfortunately, the stress comes back. Talking to friends and family, I think, is a great one. Being open with people allows you to get it off your chest. Sometimes things are more stressful in our heads, and then when we talk about them, we realize it's not as bad as we think. And then some people watch television, they read, they play video games, they listen to music, which can be good unless it's excessive. And if it's excessive, that means we're withdrawing and trying to avoid some of the stress instead of taking a break from the stress. So as you can see in this volcano model of behavior management, this is a really neat picture because it talks about all the things that are on the inside, which is like guilt and being scared and anxious and sadness. Some of those are very normal feelings, but sometimes what happens is we keep them on the inside and we let them build and we build. And as you can see, if you deal with it early on, it's okay. But as we go higher up the volcano, we start to vent and, just negative talk, and then all of a sudden, if we don't continue to deal with it, it explodes. And when it explodes, someone always gets hurt. We yell at somebody, we do something to ourselves. It doesn't end well. So I hope that as you look at stress from this perspective, this is just the beginning. But I hope that you'll see that as we make decisions, we can make decisions to deal with stress in a positive way or a negative way.